one of noir's most tragic endings, to be sure. Director Nicholas Ray was not one to shy away from anguish. If anything, he was a connoisseur of pain, with a talent for injecting genuine heartache into patented Hollywood melodrama. His best movies, In a Lonely Place, On Dangerous Ground, The Lusty Men, Bigger Than Life, Rebel Without a Cause, and They Live by Night, of course, all revolve around deeply wounded people in existential crisis. Not unusual in drama, of course, but Ray had uncommon sensitivity for his characters, and all the films I just mentioned transcend their narrative conventions to hit a particularly vulnerable spot in the human heart. On the last page of his script for They Live by Night, Ray hand-wrote, "This is not a gangster picture, not a bloody, sordid story. It is tender, not cynical, tragic, but not brutal. This is a love story. It is also a morality tale in the rhythm of its time." Farley Granger called Nick Ray the most sensitive director he ever worked with, and he always regretted that they never made another film together. This one almost didn't happen, because Farley initially thought Ray was a socially awkward, inarticulate creep. They'd found themselves together at several Hollywood parties in 1947, and Granger was freaked out by how Ray would spend the whole night just staring at him, never saying anything. Well, Ray, of course, was sizing Farley up as the potential lead in his first film. When the audition finally came, Granger asked if he could do the test opposite his friend, Kathy O'Donnell. And as soon as Ray saw them together, a deal was struck to borrow them both from producer Sam Goldwyn, who had Granger and O'Donnell under exclusive contract. Their on-screen chemistry was genuine. They were close friends in real life, two kids trying to navigate a cutthroat business.
You think you're quite a man, don't you? Fine way to get squared around, teaming with them. Stealing money and robbing banks.
O'Donnell's terrific performance in this film has a bit of irony in it. She knew the South quite well, having been born in rural Alabama with the real name Ann Steely. After being discovered by a Goldwyn talent scout, no kidding, at the counter of Schwab's drugstore, she was shipped off to the Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York, where diction lessons got rid of her deep Southern accent. On this film, however, she wasn't allowed to revert to her original accent for fear that she'd be incomprehensible. O'Donnell and Granger were a great pair together on screen, radiating an innocence that audiences instantly related to, even if Howard Hughes missed it completely. It helped to have them pitted against two of the great movie mugs, J.C. Flippin as T-Dub and Howard Da Silva as Chickamauga.
Elmo One-Eye Mobley.
Always at one. I thought they always going to mention that.
R.T. Waters, farmer of Akota, gave a description of the three men who commandeered his car at the point of a gun.
I should have blasted his head off with that shotgun.
Great as Da Silva is, he was Nick Ray's second choice for the one-eyed half-breed. His first choice was Robert Mitchum, then a second-tier player at RKO. Mitchum liked Nick Ray and wanted to do the film, but he couldn't pass up a plum role that was offered at the same time, the lead in a crime potboiler called Out of the Past. RKO production chief Dory Sherry would re-team Granger and O'Donnell for another terrific noir, Side Street, but that would be at MGM, where Sherry landed after abandoning RKO virtually the day Hughes bought the studio. And what about the creator of this story, Edward Anderson? Well, after failing to make a dent in Hollywood, he returned to the life of a tramp newspaperman, eking out a living throughout the South and never writing another novel. In 1949, realizing that Thieves Like Us had finally reached the screen, Anderson wrote a letter to Howard Hughes, begging for a bonus beyond the $500 Roland Brown had paid him. Hughes never answered. Anderson's novel would be made again under its original title in 1974, with Robert Altman directing Keith Carradine and Shelley Duvall in the roles of Bowie and Keechie. But by then, it was too late for their creator to reap any of the spoils. Edward Anderson died in 1969 after subsisting on Social Security benefits and a meager salary earned managing a small-town gazette in the tiny town of Cuero, Texas, a long way from Hollywood. And next week on Noir Alley, we leave the small-time crooks behind. We're going undercover to bust up a nationwide gang of counterfeiters. And remember, join Noir Alley Conversations on Facebook and get your noir fix over the next 7 days. Until then, stay in the shadows.